and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here a Onoto box that you can see here, and this is a pen that I did buy recently, and I bought this in January 2022, and I saw this being offered. It's a second-hand pen. It's a used pen, obviously, but it was so say lightly used. I saw it going for a really good price, and I decided I would buy it. Now, this was sold by a UK retailer that sells used, lightly used, and new in box pens. Now, this pen was a really good price, so this is why I picked it up. I've been wanting another Onoto for a while, and I decided to get this one. So let me remove the lid of the box, and then you'll see this beautiful wood box inside. So if I remove that out of the way, now unfortunately you're going to see my studio lights here, but I will try and get the studio lights off. So this lovely, beautiful red, pinkish red box, highly lacquered, and if I open the box, you will see you have the Onoto signature there from James Bodie, and this is a Magna classic metallic silver grade pearl or jade pearl, and it was originally purchased in March 2021. It's a special edition. Now, if I remove that, you'll see the pen here, and if I just remove that for the time being and I remove the tray there, you'll see you also get a number of other items in this as well. So if I just remove all of these out, and I will show you these. So you do get a custodian card. So with eternal pride, we entrust this Onoto pen to your custodianship. And yes, it is a custodianship. Onoto don't really look at it as you owning a pen. You are the custodian, because that pen will most likely be passed down over generations. You do own the pen, obviously. It also has hallmarks as well, so you can see 925 is the silver mark there, so you can see a maker's mark, OPC, a sterling mark, a fineness mark, an assay mark, and a date letter. Now, you also get a care guide as well with the Onoto, so this goes into how to care for the pen, general care, nibs, and the ink filling mechanism. Now, one other thing you also get is this, which is an Onoto cleaning cloth as well, which I always do like. So this cleaning cloth. Now, it is a pen polishing cloth that it says here, but it's I always like that Onoto are giving away little extras like that. So you have that there as well. So you have the pen tray. You do have a little bit more sort of, I want to say this is felt. It feels felt-like. But it's there really just to stop imprints on the case. And then you have the pen in this pouch. Now, the reason why I bought this pen, let me move this box out of the way so you can see this. This is the pen. And I have to say, I really do like this pen a lot. So this is the Onoto, and you can see there the logo there of Onoto. So the outer circle is the O, then you have the N, an O, a cross there, or a T for Onoto, and then O. So it spells out Onoto. You also have that on the clip there as well, and you have that chevron styled clip. And it does say here on the pen, Onoto, the pen, made in England. There is an engraving area if you want to have your name engraved. I typically do not. I kind of wish they actually wouldn't leave that blank. And I wish that they had the whole pattern there and only did it on certain pens, however, that needed to be engraved. But I can understand the reason why, because it would take longer to create those. But this material is really lovely. It's got this chased sort of pattern on this jade coloured or green coloured pen. I do like that chasing. It's filled in with a silver colour, so that looks really, really nice. You will also see the hallmarks there on the pen, which was described in that hallmarks brochure. And then you see Onoto the pen, and when you rotate it around, you'll see that there. So this is a pearl green, you can see, because that green itself does change colour, and then you have the chasing on top. So this is a little bit smaller pen that I'm used to. It's not a really small pen, but it's not a what I would call maybe as a regular sized pen. The body is a little bit thinner than I'm used to, and likewise the section, but I do like it a lot. So in terms of the pen, so you've got the cap finial here, and that is a black coloured. You then have the ring for the clip, and then the body or the cap here doesn't really taper down until you get to these silver rings, and they are silver, sterling 925. And then the edge here of the cap, what would be the cap band, tapers down, so there's less of a drop between the cap and the body. And then the body is pretty much the same size in diameter all the way down, but it's a lot thinner than the cap. And then it starts to taper into what is the end cap finial there, which is just a silver dome or panel there. Now, if I unscrew the cap, you will see, and let me just wipe this off, you will see a number 7 size nib, and this is a Onoto nib. It's an 18 karat gold nib. Now, it does have the ABS plastic feed there. The section has a slight flaring out towards the base of the section. It tapers out to where the body joins. If I unscrew the body from the section, you'll see it has a standard international converter. I don't have a huge amount of ink left in that converter, probably maybe about a third. Now, you could, in theory, normally, eyedropper these because there's no metal. However, this one did come with a weighted inner barrel, which honestly I prefer because it adds, I think it's only about 18 grams or 11 grams maybe to the weight of the whole body, but it makes it feel a little bit more substantial. So I am liking that a lot. Now, the section, I find I typically hold it a little bit higher up because I like the slightly more girth part of that section there at the top. But even then, the length of the body is still pretty good in my hand there. So from that perspective, it is a really nice pen to write with. Now, this is, you'll see here, if I can, somewhere it will say it here, a medium. There you go. It says medium there. Nib, but you will notice, because it was second hand, the previous owner had this nib ground down to what was effectively, if I show you the tipping here, no tipping. So what they've done is they've had this nib ground down to a crisp metallic. Now, that wasn't actually advertised in the sale, but obviously it was, I guess, kind of reflected in the price. So I was a little bit surprised when the nib turned up, and it was a very crisp metallic. And if you've never written with a crisp metallic, they are sharp to the edge. So if you are writing with your nib and you just rotate it just a millimeter, that nib will dig into the paper. So I wasn't a fan of that, and I did actually grind that nib myself and round it off to more of a stub. There's very little I can do with the underside tipping because it is flat, so there was very little I could do to make it write like a normal medium, unfortunately. But I have actually made it write a lot better now. I could have sent the pen back and got a refund. I really wanted this pen. I've seen this on the Onoto table for some time now, and I decided I really wanted to have this one. So I decided I would keep it and I would try to improve the nib. Now, this is no reflection on Onoto. The nib, I'm pretty sure, wouldn't have come that way from Onoto. And even if it did, it would have been because the previous purchaser had actually wanted that nib ground that way. So I think that's just a lesson for me, as well as anybody, in terms of buying second-hand pens, is that you don't always know what you're buying unless you can try it in person. However, I am really happy with this pen. Now that I've rounded that nib off and rounded it into more of a stub nib. Now, one thing I will say is that this has a lot of turns. So if I want to cap and uncap this cap, if I go here, 1 full rotation, 2, 3, 4. So that is 4 whole rotations. So that does take a lot of capping out, uncapping of this pen. That's probably a downside in this model, perhaps. I don't have many Onotos. I only have one other, and that doesn't cap as it doesn't. You don't have 4 rotations, so that may be a downside for some people. But I think like this is a beautiful pen, and I'm glad that I've added it to my collection. I'm really liking it. So I think with that, let's do a size check. We'll do a weight check. We'll do a pen comparison, and then we'll do a writing sample. So the full length of the pen, we are looking at 138 millimeters in length. The length of the cap is 67 millimeters in length. And then what we'll do is we'll take a look at the length of the pen to the tip of the nib or tip of the tines. We're looking at about 124 millimeters in length. So I'd say that this is probably not quite an oversized pen, although it does look quite large in my hand there. Can I post the cap? I can, and it will post deeply and securely. To be honest, I actually like the feel, and I like seeing this cap on the back of the pen here. So I might have to start posting a few caps. This does have a weighted barrel. Adds about another, I think, 18 grams. So that does actually add a bit more weight to it. It is a gold nib as well. I have to say I am liking that. So I think with that, let's do a weight check. So now bear in mind that this has about a third of the ink left in it. It's just under 33.5 grams inked up. So probably closer to about 34 grams. The weight of the cap is just over 12.5. And then the weight of the body of the pen, we're looking at just over 20.5 grams in weight. So that in itself is a nice lightweight pen, I would have to say. Now I think with that, let's go and do a comparison with other pens. So from left to right, we have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero in the Mediterraneo. We have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the sand. A Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. A Parker Duofold Prestige Blue Chevron. And we have an Onoto Magna Classic in the Jade or green chased silver. We have a Visconti Homo Sapiens, and this is the Blue Lagoon. We have a Pelikan M800 Royal Gold Raden, a Penlux, and this is the Masterpiece Grande. We have a Pelikan M1000 Raden Starlight, and we have a Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in shiny circles. Now, I think let's go and do a writing sample. So this is the Onoto, and it's the Magna Classic, and it's in the Jade Chased. And this is a medium, although I'm gonna put in here a crisp italic because that's how it actually came. It is an 18 cat gold. It's a number 7 size nib from Onoto. They don't do number 6s or number 8s. They do number 7s. Now, the ink in here is actually Diamine, and it is Apple Glory. Now, in terms of line variation, this is putting down a medium line. Now, I can push it a bit more and get a broad line out of this. It is an 18 karat gold nib, so I wouldn't want to push that too far. Now, you can also see from all of these lines that there are no hard starts or skips to that nib as well. Now, in terms of ink wetness, or nib wetness, let's take a look. So this is quite a wet pen. Now, as I did mention, I did buy the second hand and the nib had been ground. So I did have to change how that nib was ground because I really, really, really loathe crisp metallic nibs. And this was advertised as a medium nib, not a crisp metallic. It was not advertised that it had been ground. Now, unfortunately, that was the case, and I bought the pen. I really like the pen, so I had to round off and create more of a stub nib of this. Luckily, I can do that. I have that experience. I've learned and taught myself over the last sort of 5 years on how to do that. So this nib actually writes way, way, way better than it did for me out of the box. I think it actually gives me a lesson because I've always thought if I'm buying a second-hand pen, and I have bought quite a lot, that I can always fix them. And this was a nib that come close to where I nearly couldn't fix it. I am seriously thinking about whether or not to actually just buy a new 18 karat gold medium nib. I have to say I do like the line variation I'm getting out of this. It is more of a stub nib now. However, I don't like the texture to the nib because it's still a little bit crisp. So I may still buy an 18 karat gold medium nib. I got this for a really good price. So I could still buy a brand new 18 karat gold nib for this and it would still be cheaper than what this would have cost at retail. So that may be something that I may do at the next pen show. I will talk to Onoto and maybe once I've done a little bit more writing with this nib, and maybe I might round off a little bit more of those edges so that it's not still as crisp. But it is a lesson to me in terms of buying a used pen. So I very nearly didn't manage to fix this nib and make it right how I wanted it to. In terms of what do I like, what do I not like? Well, I love this pen. I love the work that Onoto do. This nib is no reflection on Onoto whatsoever. If the previous owner had bought this pen, they either got the nib ground themselves or they'd asked Onoto to have the nib ground. And they only had the pen for 10 months and then they sold it. Probably, I'm just guessing, but probably because they didn't like the grind. And they could have actually improved that or could have bought a new nib for it. But I get it. Not everybody likes a pen and for various reasons. And sometimes you just have to sell a pen. So, but for me, I love this pen. I love the colour. I love the chasing on it. And I love that it's got an 18 karat gold nib on it as well. What do I dislike? Well, I've mentioned it a few times now. I dislike that the nib wasn't advertised correctly by the seller when selling the pen. However, it was a really good price. So if I'd had a regular medium nib on here, 18 karat gold nib, I'd be 100% happy. I'm probably about 80% happy because of that nib. I haven't contacted the seller, honestly, because I knew that I could try and fix this nib myself, and I almost have to the point that it's a stub nib. Would I buy another Onoto? Yes, I definitely would. I like these Onoto pens. Would I buy another second-hand pen or second-hand Onoto pen? I think I probably would, but I think I'm going to have this in the back of my mind now. Is that nib going to be a ground nib or not? In all of the second-hand pens that I've bought, I've never bought a nib that had had a grind done to it. This is the first one. I think it's rare. I think most people will actually announce that the nib has been ground and it's got a specific grind to that nib. So I think I'd probably be okay in future. But I would definitely buy another Onoto, and I definitely will be buying more Onotos in the not-so-distant future because I really do like these pens. So that's my review of the Onoto Magna Classic Jade Chase. This was a medium cursive or crisp italic. It's now almost a cursive italic, I would say. It's more of a rounded stub with an 18-karat gold nib. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye-bye.